My name's Anna, I work for Coed Lleol, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about basket making. So generally I make this sort of baskets, sort of traditional willow baskets, and in this country, or sort of in Europe generally, we're fortunate in that we can grow willow, and we have lovely straight long fine sticks that are good to weave with. At the moment they're obviously sort of in their dry state, but when they're damp they become nice and flexible again, and you've kind of got that length. In lots of countries they don't have willow, they don't have sticks like that, and so all over the world what you find are coil baskets. And so I thought I'd show you how to make a coil basket, because you can make them out of anything and you're likely to have those things around. So I've got some examples of different coil baskets here from around the place. So they are kind of just a basic spiral and stitched together. So you can do them out of material, you can do them out of rope. So this is one I made out of rope that was washed up on the beach after all the storms we had at the beginning of the year. So it's just old rope that was all tangled up on the beach, that's coiled round, stitched. There's some bits of driftwood in there, there's some of the knots I couldn't get out. So rope's quite an easy way to make coil baskets. You can get really intricate ones. So this one is from Nepal, and this is made from elephant grass. But again, you've still got that sort of basic tight coil going on. So it's a bit like the way you used to make pots at school. If you ever did pottery and you used to roll out the clay to make sort of a long worm, and then you'd coil it up and press it all together. So they're quite time consuming, as you can see. There's a lot of stitches going on in that if you're making a very fine basket. In North America they make a lot out of pine needles, just because they grow, or the pine needles in America grow very long. Over here our pine needles aren't quite long enough, it might be quite frustrating to do. This is one, I think this might be from Kenya, but again, coil and stitch, yeah, and dyed, but it is basically, yeah, wild grasses. You can also do it out of wire, so there's a little wire example there. Okay, even in this country as well, it's quite nice to do sort of foraging or forage materials to do baskets from. And this is just twigs, so this is larch, and yeah, just bundles of sticks, and this is held together with wire. So I've got another one that I've started here, so I can sort of show you the stitch with that one. And then this one here, this is just made out of moss. So it's star moss, and it's been plaited and then stitched together. But again, it is just a coil pot, but made out of moss. And so, yeah, with these, it's kind of soft fibres, but a bundle of soft fibres becomes quite sturdy. So what I'm going to show you is how to start off a coil basket. So this is the first one, or first bit I ever made. So it's a bit wibbly, as you can see. But with all of these things, it's always starting that's the hardest thing to do, in that you've got a tight bit and it's all quite fiddly. But then once you've established the pattern, it does get a little bit easier. So for your thread, you want to use fairly thick material, and it helps if it's a little bit waxy. So you can wax your own thread just with a block of beeswax and just pull it through the wax. And it just means it grips a little bit better if you've waxed it. And you want a fairly long bit of cord, just so you don't have to keep joining it, but you don't want it so long that it's just going to become a massive tangle. Okay. And to start with, so I've got some lavender here. This is lavender that it's dried lavender, but I've sort of dampened it down. I soaked it for half an hour, and then I've wrapped it in a damp towel for a few hours as well, just to mellow. And the first thing you're going to do, just with a few bits of whatever your chosen thing is, or if you're just using rope, then that's kind of fine as it is. You're just going to wrap quite a distance with your cord. Okay, so you kind of going on. So I've only got 3, it's quite narrow to start with, and you'll just add more as you go. But I've wrapped it round, and now that's sort of pliable. And I'm going to coil that up, just roll it up so it looks a bit like a snail or something like that. Okay, and then with my needle, just over here, can then just come up through the middle of it and catch all those ends, aren't I? So I come up through the middle of the coil, it'll keep jumping out. I'm just sort of twisting that as I go, putting that quite tight. That's twisting. So once you've kind of got it under control, it does become a little bit easier. Space that stitching out a little bit. Okay, so once it's under control, you then want to add, or just keep adding as you go. So you can just poke another strand in, twist that. A whole bunch in there. Okay, so now so this time I'm not going all the way to the center of it, I'm just going into that second course. I'm kind of stitching 2 coils together at a time, not going right into the middle. I should add some more really to that. Okay, so you can see that's beginning to take shape. Okay, and so if you were using lavender, or if you were using twigs and wire, this works in exactly the same way. So I thought, if you haven't got dried lavender, if you haven't got suitable little bendy sticks, if you haven't got moss around, something I thought you might have access to is I've been collecting fruit nets over lockdown. So onions seem to come in these, oranges, lemons, a whole lot of things. So you just end up with lots of these plastic nets, and these are already a sort of good fibre that you could use. So here's an example of a little pot I started to make, made out of the fruit nets, and again stitched in a similar way, but with a bit of a blanket stitch, so you've got that line around the top on that example. So I'm just going to show you a little bit more with this other one that I've also started. Lots of started projects here. This is partly how to join. So with this one, I'm just going through the stitch below each time. So I'm going to join on some new thread. So to join on thread, you just need to tie it in a knot. Lose that needle. Just tie it in a knot, and you want the knot to be sort of quite low down so it kind of gets buried in the coils, and then you can just trim off the ends afterwards once you've gone round a bit. But if the knot's sort of down inside there, it'll still be nice and tight. With your fruit nets, you still just want to twist it so it looks less net-like, more of a sort of a rope distance, and you can just go over, and I'm just grabbing that stitch below. So on the lavender I sort of did 2 coils. On this one I'm just going over and then catching that next stitch. And so because you're spiraling, every so often you'll notice your stitches are getting really far apart. So these ones are quite far apart at the moment. Just catching that stitch again. So what you can choose to do is just put in an extra stitch as you need to. Okay, but ideally you want to keep your spacing even, because then it looks much neater. So if on this round, what I can end up doing is just a new stitch in between each of the old stitches. So then the next one I'll catch that stitch again. Okay, and so you just keep going round until your base is as big as you want it to be, or until you've got bored probably of doing all those tiny little stitches, and then you can start coming up to do the side walls, and then it will just sort of sit on top of itself. So you still want to grab that stitch below, but you're just sort of making it begin to sit on top of that. Okay, so you can see already that's beginning to get that shape going on. And just continue. You can add new bits in as you want to, so just sort of overlap it. You can cut off those little bits if you want to, but just overlap it, add a new bit. You can see where I've joined the different colours in. But yeah, just keep spiraling, and you can spiral and make coil baskets pretty much out of anything, so it's up to your imagination. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you experiment with lots of different things. Make some little baskets, some little pots, and do post up pictures of anything you've done. My name's Anna. This is Coed Lleol.